are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk Today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, welcome back, and thank you for joining us. Another truly terrific day here at Talk Today as we invite you to share with us as we commemorate the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Ivan, our friends from the HSA and across the wider medical community. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is reminding you.
Avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
Email Talk Today at candw.ky. Let your voice be heard.
And now, back to Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, Radio Cayman Talk Today.
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And it's, for some of us, it's a sobering reminder of what nature is and how our forefathers had such a healthy respect for Mother Nature and for the sea in particular. And as I joined the CEO at the HSA, Mr. Lizette Yearwood, welcome, Mom. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Most days I would say I'm absolutely fantastic. Today, even more so.
Awesome.
It's just a good day. It's a good day that we're reminded through scriptures and all things give thanks. And as I look at what this month of September is, not just the 20th anniversary of, for many of us, no matter what our parents or grandparents have shared about the Turtle 2 or subsequent storms, we look back at a people with resolve and resilience, a people who understand with great respect what it means to be a unified community, and to appreciate that for some of us, we would like to forget. It's not a fond memory, but it's sobering to appreciate what we are, what we've been given, and how gracious we are for being spared, but provided an opportunity. So maybe through you, Ms. Lizette, I'll invite perhaps Ms. Karen to join us and Dr. Tanlo, but maybe set the stage for us, because this has been a challenging few years in particular.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for having us. I think the theme in really reflecting about Hurricane Ivan is really to look at lessons learned. What have we done since that time? Have we built resilience, and where have we built resilience? Where are we now in retrospect, right? And at the HSA, it was a very sobering time. I certainly was there at the time, not in the CEO role, but in the senior management position. So I very much was a part of everything that was happening. And even though the HSA is not a public shelter, we were the safe harbor for so many families that were around the hospital in the neighboring communities, that their homes were badly damaged, were demolished in some cases, and they came to the hospital. So at one point in time, we had over 500 people that were just sheltering there. And there were so many lessons learned, but the message really is the HSA has been there then, and we are here now for the community, and we're even stronger. So we're pulling together to make sure that we are here and more resilient if there are other disasters or such as Hurricane Ivan that comes our way. So we learned many lessons, and we are better prepared as far as policy-wise, contingency-wise, equipment-wise, facility-wise. But I think that putting all of that aside, the one thing that we can't minimize the importance of is really the commitment and unity of healthcare workers, and that's in HSA as well as in the private sector. I think that we're a special people. I think crises bring healthcare workers together. We work very well together, and we saw that even in the recent pandemic, but certainly in Hurricane Ivan, we work very well with the private sector, and I'm happy to have Dr. Tanilau here representing the CIMDS, because another one of the roles that I play is I am the chairperson of the Medical Relief Emergent Support Team, and that involves representatives from the HSA but also across the private sector, and as well as the other 2 private hospitals. And we each have our roles, and we all meet prior to the hurricane, any sort of threat, but certainly before hurricane season, we meet and we talk about our preparedness, if there are any concerns, and if needed, we all work very well together, and we're in communication all during the season.
And I think as I listen to you, there are certain things from the person in your household to the structure in your community that if that is still standing unhinged, unharmed, you look to that for strength you look to that for resolve, but you look to that and say this is motivating. And if that thing, it's like a captain of your football team, if she's having a bad day and she's not performing, the whole team feels it. But if she's digging deep and winning you on, you end up, even if you lose in the game, you end up knowing that you gave it your all. And that's crucial. With that in mind, though, Ms. Garden, from your perspective, we have weathered many storms for those of us who are a little bit more than 40. Let's just put it that way. For me, it was Hurricane Allen. Right? Thinking that, hey, I'm a young man, I got this, and was excited at the opportunity to demonstrate. Hey, you can give me some responsibility. I can go and ride my bicycle against the wind, going 2 feet forward and being blown back 15. But I can get there. I can get that rope. To knowing that when you become responsible, either by authority or designation, you know how to step up with the training. So for you, your colleagues, share your perspective initially. What is Hurricane Ivan was? What is it now?
So with Hurricane Ivan, we saw our leaders in the healthcare system. I mean, they're always stepping up, but we saw them step up really to a high level. So at that time, I wasn't a manager. I was a registered nurse. But our managers, the SMT, they walked around, they make sure everybody was okay, the patients, the staff. And I remember even after the hurricane, many of us didn't have a place to live, including myself. And our managers step out and make sure that there was a room prepared for us, that when we leave night shift, we could get a break and rotate the staff so that persons could get rest while persons are up. And so that was very key for us. And so it brought us together. And I think it's important, as you said, because those managers demonstrated to us what leadership looked like, even though they were going through it, it was okay for us. We thought we could make it, and we did. We really made it. I remember the hospital, many of us didn't have, we didn't have food, to go and cook because you didn't live anywhere, really. You were sheltering at the hospital. But the kitchen, I remember it was the SMT the senior managers who stepped in and allowed the kitchen, although they were struggling, to provide a meal for the staff. So the staff had a cooked meal every day. And it wasn't just the patients, but it was the staff and the staff relatives. We were sharing. And so the food had to be shared. So it was things like those. So I think it's important. And now as a manager, now looking back, even throughout those years, I remembered how those managers perform and did. So I felt like I had to make sure that I maintained that standard where you're stepping in and you're thinking about the different ideas and you're bringing the staff together. Everybody is just thinking about what we need to put in place to make sure everyone is safe, not just the patients, but the families of the staff and the staff. So I remember at that time, our managers, they would send us home early and said, go prepare yourself so that when you come back, you're not worried about what's going to happen at your house. You're going to be okay because you know everything is fine. You have gone. So we give, at the time, the managers gave us all time off to go and prepare at our house, make sure we boat up, get our water, get our food, and come back. So having persons who can lead by example, but just encouraging us, it prepared us for when we were going through it. And we didn't have to worry too much. We know, even though it looks very bad on the outside, it was going to be okay because we had the support.
Yeah. You feel supported, not alone. You're nurtured. Dr. Tanlo, we'll take this scheduled break. We'll come back and we'll start with you. And as Ms. Lizette was sharing, as a medical fraternity, crises bring you together, and whatever sort of individual associations you may have, those lines no longer matter because you're one, medical fraternity. Let's talk about it from that perspective as you share with us. To our listeners, 20 years for some of us, we're much older and wiser. Some of us are just better, like wine, we get better with time. Join us after the break.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walker's Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walker's Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as we invite you, in your reflection and recall and remembrance of the passage of Hurricane Ivan 2 decades, ago, we also are cognizant for some of us. It's still harrowing, we may not individually in personal experience in a great tragedy, loss, or angst, but we know many who have, and just the thought of what could be. So I'm very grateful to the healthcare sector and the CEO of HSA, their senior nursing officer, together with Dr. Tanlo from the Cayman's Medical Dental Society. The medical fraternity globally seems to have an elevated and desired and deserved space in our minds. Do no harm is your motto. The fact that you give service in the most unselfish way. The families suffer just your normal shifts, but in the times of crises, as Ms. Lizette shared, it's when you shine. But how does that, in your mind, looking back as to what was happening then, where we are now, and then potentially what could be, God forbid, something even more devastating than the passage of a Hurricane Ivan? How do we as a community look to the medical profession, join it, support it, acknowledge it, but also partner?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and it's truly a joy being here. Yeah, so I feel truly honored to be not only the president of the Cayman Island Medical and Dental Society, but also having been chosen as the mediator or liaison person to basically connect the public sector with the private sector. There is a huge huge source of medical potential in the private sector, and we try to reach out to these doctors who would like to volunteer for the worst case scenario. So it's good to hope for the best case scenario, but be prepared for the worst case scenario. So we were fortunate to actually recruit close to 20 doctors, so variety of pediatricians, GPs, urgent care doctors, surgeons, ophthalmologists, so all these critical potential physicians who are necessary if something goes really bad. And a couple of dentists also. I mean, if you got hit by a rock or something, then you need also to see a dentist.
Sorry, Ms. Lizette, if you wish.
Yeah,
thank you all. I was going to ask that we realize that since Ivan, a lot of new people have come to our shores and have heard stories about what happened. Some have had, I think, a very accurate account, and with shock and dismay, go, wow, as bad as it was no worse. There was this togetherness. But for the medical fraternity in particular, you come from different areas, you heard stories. How can we help, not just in acclimation, integration, but get a perspective? As an example, for me, there are many people who were very instructive, very instrumental, but none other than Mr. Kirkland Nixon, who at that point in time was sort of the predecessor of what is now HMCI. And his voice commands respect. But then his expertise, his leadership style inculcates a sense of confidence. But as a medical professional, I would imagine that if something is an emergency and there's blood everywhere, you could think of, that Hollywood set that makes it look in the worst, arenas from every direction, fires coming out of places, people are in that chaotic space. There's calm with you guys. So those new physicians who come across, how do we help them now to say, listen, this is what happened, but it's not as bad as it is. It was worse than what it was, but it's going to be better because we're still calm, we're still competent, we're still committed.
Yeah, as you said, expertise matters, and so we have a broad variety of doctors from different backgrounds from the Cayman Islands who lived here, who experienced actually Hurricane Ivan before. Most of the doctors, they came on island in the meantime, so for them it's a little bit difficult to appreciate it. So therefore, it's also important to have the communication with all these people who had this experience and be able to properly prepare. So therefore, I'm very grateful that we had this opportunity to basically connect. We connected through WhatsApp groups and emails and personal meetings too. And this is, I think, a long process also for people who come, let's say, from Europe or North America, who are not really experienced with hurricanes. So all we know is basically from the news or looking at satellite images and thinking, okay, that's far away. But I mean, I fortunately didn't experience a Hurricane Ivan. My wife, on the other hand, she lost everything, so her entire home, and that is also in my personal space quite a reminder. If I see something and say, well, you know what, calm down, and it's going to be good, to rely on whatever NOAA, the satellite images and so on. So and she helped actually taking it more seriously.
And thank you for sharing that personal capacity. I mean, I do recognize that you were not here, but then understanding the dynamic, as I was looking at today's discussion, you have a household where one person was intimately connected, affected, present. Another in you who come after, and that can bring a balance. But sometimes, not even cognizant, you could be dismissive, not you personally. That wasn't anything. Oh, you know that wasn't anything. You weren't here. And then the wider community, by extension, you got some who are new, who don't know, who saw, who now see the rebuilt space, and not to recognize, Ms. Lizette, that, well, that built space took a lot of effort. It was quick, but look at the impact, the consequence.
Yeah, if I may say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in, let's say, or in 9 out of 10 occasions, nothing might happen, and we prepare and get sort of like a fatigue and don't take things seriously. But I think that one occasion matters where if we get hit, this really changes our lives.
That's right.
So
It
I think
only
we
takes
should,
one.
exactly. And I think bringing up these stories from 20 years ago, it might sound like a long time ago, but statistically we will be due at any time. So let's be prepared.
Unlike the gestation period, whether it's an elephant or a person, it's not predictable when, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But be prepared.
Be prepared.
And that is the key.
Yes.
Preparedness is the key, especially when it comes to healthcare workers. And this is a theme that is cascaded all the way from the deputy governor all the way down throughout the civil service, and indeed in throughout the community through HMCI. But we had staff that lost everything. Absolutely everything. So we have a system where we have 3 shifts that stay in-house. So we provide shelter for our staff and their immediate families in-house. And I remember after Hurricane Ivan, there were individuals who were living in the hospital for months. It was past Christmas time before we were able to start moving our staff back out to some sort of accommodation. And, that was a time, even though it was stressful, we'd all lost everything, but it was such a unifying time because we came together and we shared everything. Those of us who did have houses and did have clothes and shoes at home, we brought them. We shared clothes, we shared shoes, we shared food, we shared stories, we cried together, but it's through that it brought resilience. And so I think that as a healthcare team, we're more emotionally prepared. And what Dr. Tanalo spoke about a little while ago is really important for those newcomers into our team now who don't know what a hurricane is, and they're hearing all of these terrible stories that that we can tell them of. It can be something that's quite traumatizing and intimidating. But again, preparedness is the key. So every one of our staff go through an orientation, a new employee orientation, and they're told how to prepare. What are some of the things that you need to do? Because if our staff and their families aren't prepared, they can't give of their all when they come to the hospital. So that's why Karen said, we give them time to go home and prepare themselves. And then we also share with them how we are prepared at the hospital, because the preparedness of the government healthcare system brings calm to the rest of the community, right? So during Hurricane Ivan, we had a generator, a small generator. It didn't run the entire facility. It only ran key areas of the hospital. But that was quite low, and we electively turned it off when we saw the floodwaters rising. And then, as a result of that, we had a patient, and I'll get Karen to tell us about this patient who was on a ventilator that we actually had to handbag for a large number of hours. And she'll tell you more about that, because that was a critical period. And, as a result of that, we said, we cannot be caught like that again. We've now gone and we've gotten a bigger generator that runs the entire hospital. We still have the smaller one that is another backup. So we have a second redundancy. And the other thing that we did was we raised that generator now, I think it's 12 to 15 feet off of the ground, so that we now know that it's secure from flood waters, God forbid, that we should have something like Hurricane Ivan again. So that is one way that I feel that, we know that the hospital will run, well for at least 7 days. We have fuel for at least 7 days. And then we have memorandums of understanding with all of the key entities. I mean, we were there already. I mean, we worked together already, but now we formalize that relationship so that, we're the first ones that would be getting propane delivery if, such a thing happened where we had to be running our generator for that period of time. And then we also are in the process of getting water reservoirs. So we have that redundancy as well on site so that we as a public health care provider will be able to run and be able to maintain the services that our people need.
It's Karen.
Tell us about that patient, Karen.
So as I said, I was a registered nurse at the time. And I remember I was on duty. Even though I have been through one hurricane, I've never been through a Hurricane 5. So honestly, many times it is said that a hurricane is coming and we don't think it's coming. And I was like that. I actually came to work. I was on that morning shift, and of course, you have to come prepared for 3 days. But honestly, I only took one bag with me, with just, not many things. But that morning, we had one patient in the unit who was on a ventilator. So this is a life support machine. So the machine breathes for the patient. If we turn that machine off, the patient will not be able to breathe and the patient will not survive. And then, so we had, even though the generator was off, we still had light, from CUC. But then that was turned off because everything just started to get so much worse, the winds and everything. When we lost that power, when we have a patient like that, we would not be leaving the room, we would be keeping an eye and making sure everything. So as soon as the power went off, we were in there. We took the patient off that machine and we had to handbag. So we had to hand breathe for that patient, just manually bagging that patient. So we had a little bag, a special bag, and we were squeezing oxygen into that patient. And we bagged that patient for about 16 hours. I never forget it, because even when my shift was over, we couldn't leave. We had to hand over that. And because it was so tiring, imagine one person cannot be doing that. We were bringing in staff from the other units to help us, teaching them what to do, and then they'll be helping us. So we were doing that over and over, and that patient survived. And then we had one transport ventilator that had a 4 hours power backup. But we decided that we didn't know how long this hurricane was going to last for. We didn't know how bad things was going to get. So we said, you know what? Our manager, we talked with all of us and was decided, let's bag this patient for as long as we could in the daytime, into the night, so that maybe by 12 midnight, 1 o'clock, when everybody was maybe not their best and exhausted, we could put the patient on that transport ventilator and then let that go for the 4 hours and then get back onto it. And that's what we did, and that patient survived. In the morning, although because our generator had gotten a bit of water in there, and they couldn't really, they were working on that. But while they were working on that, as the hurricane passed in the morning, I remember somebody from the hospital, one of the team members from facility, they went and they got a small generator. We moved the patient over so we could be near to a window to make sure that the plug could reach, and then we were able to be relieved and get that patient back on the regular mechanical ventilator. But that was a story where people came from elsewhere to help us. Everybody chipping, and that patient made it. Why? Because we were, I think we knew, we knew that we had to do this because nobody was going to lose their life during this hurricane.
That's right.
And so everybody just put together. That will never leave me.
And what have we done to make sure that we're not in that position
and then
again?
Since that, after that passed, so those old ventilators didn't have external battery backup. But we made sure after that we got all our new ventilators with both internal and external battery backup. So if that should happen, we wouldn't be worried, because then the external battery would also be kicked in, and those last for several hours. So one ventilator could last now for up to maybe say 6 hours or so, or 8 hours, so until you could get yourself together. So we had to make those changes as well. So
That's right.
No, with great respect. Let's pause, take our schedule break. We'll come back, and these are the stories that speak to the resilience and the resolve, but also speak to the resourcefulness and the ability to learn from experiences, so that going forward, it's not just a teaching moment, it's life-saving. All right, join us right after the break.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Refer a friend and get $50 to spend when your friend or family member opens a personal account with Cayman National. From July 9th to September 30th, 2024, CNB customers can earn $50 for each referral who opens an individual or joint personal account. Earn up to $500 with a maximum of 10 referrals. Visit CaymanNational.com for more details on this promotion and follow us on social media for updates. Terms and conditions apply.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Prescription refills made easy at Savannah Pharmacy. WhatsApp your prescription refills to 929-5045.
Are you ready for non-stop laughter? Cayman's biggest comedy show returns. What Happening is happening, featuring the all-star cast. Bring the family, bring your friends, bring your grandma. Treat yourself to a night of fun and back-breaking, side-splitting, laughing until you choke comedy. Directed by Matt Brown.
Drop the joke now, man. What happening? Tell me.
At the Harquail Theater, September 27th until October 13th. Proudly presented by the Cayman National Cultural Foundation. Tickets on sale now at ticketsplus.ky.
What happening? Drop the joke now, man.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to the CEO over at the HSA, Ms. Lizette Yearwood, together with the, now I always wanted to say chief, but I know it's a senior nursing officer, so, I hope our good CNO owner realizes that it's a thought of her that probably brings it to the forefront. Ms. Karen, thanks for joining us, and Dr. Tanlo for being here. It is an evident theme that we look in our communities to that thing that gives us confidence, that instills in us a sort of sense of inspiration to move on, and seeing the health services collectively mobilize. We know the competence, we know the resourcefulness and the like. But if, Ms. Lizette, if I may ask you, I think earlier you talked about, people running to the hospital as a safe harbor. You have your staff and the extended family, then the wider community, and there's a capacity issue. Whether it's 100 1,000-person football stadium, or it's a room with a dining table for 10. One over that amount is one too many, but you can't turn them away. Everybody has to eat, so to speak. In that respect, with the HSA's experience then and then now, two things. Would you say today you were overwhelmed? Was it oversubscribed? Was it severe sort of devastation and destruction? Relatively speaking, looking at it then and thinking of it now in perspective, and then what does that mean going forward?
Okay, so that's a very important point, actually. So you will hear when, we're talking and giving hurricane advisories, we will say that HSA is not a public shelter. And that's important because we don't want to have the public thinking that they should come there to stay, because we need to be ready to be able to respond if the public needs us during a crisis, during the storm. So just like during Hurricane Ivan, we were not a public shelter, but we were not going to turn anybody away who needed shelter. Karen was talking a little while ago about how we saw people coming swimming to the hospital from the neighbors, from around the area. We had staff that went downstairs in the height of the storm, tied a rope around their waist, another the other end onto a post, and went out in the waves, because at that time it was actually the waves that were crashing against the hospital, and rescued people from around. So no, we're not a public shelter, but we will never turn anybody away at the height of a storm when they need safe harbor. So we will still be there for that reason. And, it's really important when we talk about resiliency, it's really important to talk about a continuity plan. So it's not just a preparedness plan, but how are we going to continue if we are damaged? So we actually look at these various scenarios, make sure that we have enough supplies in place. We have 3 months of medical and surgical supplies in place during the hurricane season. Our materials manager makes sure that we have vendors that actually keep supplies in other areas as well. So, and we have suppliers from different regions, so that if one region is impacted by a hurricane, even though we may not be, we're still able to source from another supplier. Since Hurricane Ivan, we also put in place our oxygen plant. So we're not dependent on importation of oxygen any longer. We can actually generate our own oxygen right on site. So that too is part of our resilience. And I must say that in addition to the hospital looking at our continuity plan, I'm really appreciative of the general country looking at our preparedness and our resilience. Because as you mentioned, God rest his soul, Mr. Kirkland Nixon, and also Mr. Donovan Ebanks. They were, when they retired, I thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to survive now? Because they were the hurricane gurus that when you saw them, you were calm because things were in control. But you know what? Even though we didn't realize it, they were teaching us.
Yes.
Yeah. And at that time, there was no HMCI, but the government saw in their wiseness that they needed to put such a structure in place. So now no longer do we go to the fire station, because that's Mr. Nixon's business domain, operation, right? So we all used to go there. But what we didn't have is a team who came together during the hurricane. So that is the change now. So instead, because we always used to meet and get prepared, and then we would all go our separate ways. But then once communication is broken during a hurricane, then it's difficult to coordinate an approach, right? So in their wisdom, the government has established HMCI. I think it was in 2008 they were born, and during a hurricane, they have representatives from all of the agencies that stay at the government admin building. So even if communication is broken, even if we can't physically get to the hospital, we have a senior member of staff that is based there that can make decisions and advocate on our behalf. And that is same for all of the government agencies as well as the private sector. They're also represented at that National Emergency Operations Center.
And as I listen to you, I'm recognizing that increasingly the world may indeed be flat, that interconnectedness, that interdependence within our own community, but amongst the suppliers. You share the notion that one area impacted in a negative way can affect multiple areas. from the supply of, Band-Aids to other things.
Mhm.
So how do we build that resilience?
There's also one thing that I think we need to bear in mind where resilience is concerned. And this is something that I feel that, we continue to pay forward, because after Hurricane Ivan, our staff were exhausted. They didn't have any homes, but they still had families and they still had other work to do other than, hospital work. So we had a team through one of our nurses. They made connection with a team from Canada who came down, nurses who came down and actually gave respite time to our staff.
Yeah.
That was just so appreciated. So now they were relieved of their professional duties and they could go and clean up their homes. They could go and look after their families and try to rebuild their homes. So that was incredibly important. And subsequently, God has allowed us to be able to help our neighbors as well. So we've sent a team that went to Anguilla. We also sent a team to Bahamas a few years ago as well, because we know what it felt like to be in that situation. So we felt for our healthcare workers in the region, and we were able to help them. So that sort of thing I think is really important. So even though we come together as a community here in the Cayman Islands, but I think the general healthcare community look after each other, and we try to help each other wherever we can.
I see why my children say, oh, everything has a football analogy. It's like a football match, right? You got two competing teams, but their collaborative approach, that competitive on the pitch, make sure that the spectators have a wonderful game. The competition, as it were, in the Cayman space, to me, is more of collaboration, and you see it when events like this transpire. But the interconnectedness, the interdependence is regional, it's global, and that is what I think what is unifying. If only we could exhibit a little bit more humility and humanity
all year round.
All year round. We're not reading from a script, we're feeling it from the heart.
That's right.
And we will get there, because that sort of leadership with empathy, with humility, before honor. After our news break, can you tell us more about some of the things so that we can not only see the unifying bond, but maybe draw, from the experience to bring us closer and a greater understanding and appreciation? All right, stay tuned. Join us after the break.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The Headline News is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
The call is out for nominations for the King's Birthday 2025 Honors List. The honors recognize those who have given exceptional and selfless service over a sustained period of time. Nominations should be submitted to the Governor's office by 5 p.m. on the 28th of October, 2024. In regional headlines, Jamaica's Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says that based on preliminary figures, Jamaica has welcomed just over 2 million stopover visitors and 3 million total visitors. That includes cruise arrivals between the 1st of January and September 14th this year. It marks an increase over last year's figures for the same period. The milestone was reached just prior to Mr. Bartlett's departure for Brazil, where he will participate in the 4th G20 Tourism Working Group meeting. The Caribbean community CARICOM has extended congratulations to the Twin Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as the nation celebrates its 41st anniversary of independence today. In a message to the government and the people of the Federation, CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett noted the theme of this year's celebration, Together a People Proud and Strong, serves as a resounding call to commemorate collective accomplishments and forge an even stronger, more unified Twin Island Federation. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
The Health Services Authority would like to thank you, the Cayman community, for voting us the Best of Cayman Islands 2024 in 13 medical categories. As the largest and longest healthcare provider in the Cayman Islands, we have been caring for you for many generations, helping the people of our islands live longer, healthier, and happier lives. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky or call 949-8600.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
In 1965, Cayman Brac Airways, a subsidiary of Alaska Airlines, was operating twice weekly round-trip service flown with a Beech Model 18 twin-prop aircraft on a routing of Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Montego Bay. According to the airline's 1st of May 1965 timetable, connecting service to Miami via Grand Cayman was offered by Alaska, an airline based in Costa Rica, while additional Cayman Brac Airways connecting service to Miami, as well as to New York City, was offered by Pan Am via Montego Bay. In 1968, the government of the Cayman Islands purchased a controlling interest in Cayman Brac Airways from Alaska and then formed Cayman Airways.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land. Explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks too for a few extra minutes to speak about an experience with the passage of Hurricane Ivan that's built within us a sense of healthy respect for nature, but the importance of unifying as a community. The CEO of the HSA, Ms. Lizette Airwood, and the senior nursing officer, Ms. Karen Stewart, joins us. Got it right? And Dr. Tan Low from the Cayman Islands Medical and Dental Society. As I'm eager to hear from you more about what has happened and what we've learned and some of the stories, quote unquote, we have a caller as we go to our phones. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Sterling.
And to you, man. How is your day?
I'm thankful, very thankful. Thankful to have a day off, a day of respite.
Whoa, how you manage that, man? You must be a civil servant. That's good. I'm just kidding.
That's awful.
I'm just messing with you.
As a previous civil servant, I rebuke that.
No, that's for those in the private sector who don't understand that civil servants get no days off.
Well, it's funny you started that way because that's why I was calling. I was driving in my car and listening to. I did have a stop somewhere, so I got out of my car listening to Miss Airwood and got back into the car, continuing listening to Miss Airwood. Good afternoon to you, CEO, and good afternoon to the nursing agent. I'm not sure who was there.
Okay, that's Miss Karen Stewart, our senior nursing officer. I was going to give her a promotion and title. She just takes the P. And then the CEO, of course, and then from the Cayman Islands Medical and Dental Society, so the liaison, as you said, between the public and the private, Dr. Tanalo.
Okay, good afternoon to all of you as well.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to call because as a Caymanian, listening to our CEO talk about the expense and the senior nurse officer, Miss Stewart, I think you said. Yeah, it has been refreshing to hear the contingencies and the plans and the resilient plans to do with strengthening our healthcare facility after that storm. Having been a part of the National Hurricane Committee at the time, being a former civil servant at the time, I was privy to many of the conversations on the radio network that we had and learning about the amount of people that were gathering at the hospital and trying to make it into hospital. But I mean, just to hear that our staff went downstairs and tried to rescue people and the likes, and never mind that amazing story, which has been published all over the world, if you ask me, that they kept someone alive for over 16 hours on hand. It is an amazing story. It's not just a story. It's an amazing story of commitment, dedication, so of everything that we've heard about our healthcare facilities in general. That speaks to something, and it should be celebrated. That was fair. Just
heroic.
Think of that. Yes, and then I also recall, and maybe Miss Yearwood or the chief nursing officer can speak to it. I remember
the senior nursing officer. Don't follow me, get in trouble, I know.
Please forgive me, ma'am. By all means. And if you're not human, you should be by now. I would give you right. But I think I remember hearing stories about the many decisions that were made for the many people who were on dialysis, for example. And you may want to share about that. I seem to remember some real major decisions being made, I think at one point in time, about even flying people out of here. But just thank you, Ms. Yearwood. Thank all of your team for the hard work that you all do at the HSA. Notwithstanding everything is not always correct and up to speed, but that's for every place that you go. And I was just very proud of me to hear the amazing work that you all did during that storm, and to hear the amazing work that you did to try to better be prepared to withstand such a threat in our community. It really gives comfort to the air to actually hear that. Thank you again. I just wanted to thank you all.
Thank you too, sir. We really appreciate those comments, and we will certainly take it back to the team. HSA is here for you. We were here then and we're here now, and we also want to express our appreciation to you for your service too as well, sir.
Yeah, thanks again, man. And as if he was reading from our script, but
yes.
Some more stories, Ms. Karen.
We were just about to talk about the dialysis, yes, because for the dialysis patients, for the patients who are on dialysis and the patients who are receiving chemotherapy because of their oncology needs. I remember, and sorry, you're right. We were thinking about because of the length of time it was taking, that we'd have to fly some of these patients overseas. But since that time, we have put in plans just immediately right after. So once we hear that there is an impending, whether it's hurricane, tropical storm, we start to put things in place. So at the beginning of before hurricane season, we have all our patients' documents, passport, those things. But we also make sure if we know the hurricane is going to hit, like say in 2 days' time, the staff, they do a 24-hour shift. And so everybody comes in early and the staff make sure everybody get dialyzed, whether it's their day, yes or no, so that at least we have some lead time. And so we do that. It doesn't matter if it's a tropical storm, we have that in place now. And as I said, the dialysis unit normally doesn't do a 24-hour, but in those periods, the staff do 24 hours. Whether they need to do 2 24 hours or one 24 hours, and they would do that. The other thing is that we are opening up now, or we have opened up the West Bay, a dialysis unit at the West Bay clinic, so we have that too as a backup if something should happen at the hospital. So with those plans and with our oncology patients, we do the same thing. We get all their paperwork, a copy of their passport, those things, and we bring them in early if we realize that a hurricane is coming or a tropical storm. We get them done. And so we can have that time to make sure we can get things in place. So we have done that just right immediately after that. So we have not had an issue since that time, in terms of that.
We also don't want to forget our colleagues over in the Sister Islands, because even though they didn't suffer severely during Hurricane Ivan, thankfully, because they were there for us, they had their Paloma. Their Hurricane Paloma was like our Hurricane Ivan. So they too have learnt from us as we have learnt from them, and they have put in place measures in order to ensure that they're better prepared as well. We have their generator in place. They currently will relocate to the medical wing at the Aston Ruddy Centre on the Bluff when there's a storm approaching. However, we're making sure that the hospital is prepared as well for the continuity afterwards. So they too have put in place plans, and we're one team. So whatever policies and processes and protocols we put in place in Grand Cayman, we also put for the sister islands, Cayman Brac as well as Little Cayman. And one of the things that came with the HMCI formation was that we have we've expanded our teams at the medical shelters. So we have shelters throughout the island, as well as in the sister islands. But what we have done is we've expanded the team. So we have a GP doctor, we have a midwife, we have a
registered nurse,
a registered nurse, and now we've added mental health. So we have a mental health representative there as well, because like Dr. Tanalo was saying, even when people now hear about an approaching storm, if they have been through Hurricane Ivan, Hurricane Paloma, it is almost like that post-traumatic stress disorder kicks in, right? And they panic. So there are a number of people, when they start to hear those winds howling, it brings back those horrific memories of having to crawl on furniture to get rid of the waters as they were rising. So we have mental health experts that are there. But the other thing that's important about having a team in each one of these districts, it's very strategic, because we can deal with any sort of aftermath of the storm. So if we are, God forbid, cut off from the eastern districts or West Bay, we have teams there that can respond. And as I said, after Hurricane Ivan, there were a number of our private sector physicians whose businesses were lost. And they came together. I don't remember even talking about how they were going to get paid. I think they just paid. It just worked. Yes. And we just worked together as a team. But they came to the hospital and operated out of the emergency room. They helped us in the community because, like I said, healthcare professionals really rise to the occasion, and we shine as a team when there are crises. And, we feel that we continue to stand together. We stand stronger now as a result of those challenges that we had during Hurricane Ivan. And I think that the country can be reassured that their public healthcare provider, through the strength of both the public and the private sector, are here for you. If we should be faced with another storm, we're better and more resilient, and we've learned lessons, and we think that we're in a definitely better position than we were back in 2004.
Dr. Tallow, you wish to?
Yes, I would like to also say something in regard to the public and private sector. So I completely agree with that. I just wanted to emphasize that it might be in some people's heads that the private and the public sector, they are sort of like competing entities, which is not true. I don't know who created this barrier in the minds, but these are physicians who are serving the public. It doesn't matter. It's just a different employer. Yeah. So the private and public sectors, they are not competitors, but they are complementary. So they are specialists on both sides, which both sides need. Yeah. So I just wanted to.
Well, thank you for emphasizing that, because I've said it a couple of times in the past, and people go, "Well, you're getting paid." I said, "No. If you are a patient on this side, or more importantly, if you are someone who's taking a family member or other friend as a patient, you see the collaborative approach. You see the complementary, from diagnostics to referrals to anything else. And for me, just as a community member, I think that's what builds the resilience, that's what builds the strength, our nation building in our community. Physician A on this sector, or physician B, you just want that patient. To be served
That's it.
by that person who is then positioned for the best possible outcome.
That's a very, very good point. You know what? And it doesn't take a hurricane for that to happen.
No. Exactly.
That happens on a day-to-day basis. Because I can guarantee you that if today we're out of something, we don't have a supply, we don't have a medication for a patient, we call up the private sector. I can guarantee you that if they have it, they will assist us.
Well, can I, if you'd allow me, and this is why I champion, I know some say, oh, it's, it's part of my political launch, so that's coming later, right? Why I think healthcare and education are your pillars. And I see this on a daily basis for me, but also for those just within my circle. Someone needs something from an MRI, whatever kind of diagnostic, to physiotherapy, to whomever. That person gets it as best as possible. Now, not to be too disparaging, but somewhat critical, the insurance component, another policy initiative, could be the impediment or the delay, but it's not the provider. And it's why, I'm grateful to Miss Monique and your team over there for finally getting us for this last decade plus, having this weekly show with HSA, because it promotes the healthcare sector, but it also encourages more of us to look at health services as a career option. You can be a lawyer and still work in healthcare. You can be even an accountant, my accountant friends. But there's a role for all of us in healthcare.
That's right.
I would like to see more nurses, but that's just a separate thing. With that in mind, then, can I ask, and I'm really, really, on a personal level, grateful to the fantastic, healthcare sector that we have here, but also in particular for your time today in reminding us. So maybe to you, Mr. Stewart, as we look at where we were with Hurricane Ivan individually and collectively, but from the infrastructure or lack thereof as a country about healthcare, what do you say to us from two perspectives? And it's not political, so if you're sort of, bitten for it, tell them, come talk to me. Talk to us as the policymaker, but talk to us as the parent who's speaking to our children relative to healthcare as a career. So what can we do to make that not only more attractive, but for us to understand the importance of being that partner?
So it is so good to have career days, but we should start. The career days need to be in the primary schools as well, because children start at a very young age to decide what they want to be, and it depends on what they see on the outside. So the more we open them to it from at a very young age, so when we go into the primary school, they start to connect with us. So I believe we start from the primary school right into the high school, secondary school, and we demonstrate. We can at the hospital we have like a volunteer. We have like a volunteer group. They can volunteer to come in. I know we have the summer program, which is an excellent program, but we can start those initiatives at that level. We do have nursing school. We have other healthcare programs to invite them to come and see what that looks like. Yes. Because until you get in to see what that looks like, you really can't make up your minds. And then the other thing is, we have to be prepared, right? So for the young ones, if they don't see, it's like what is so good at the hospital, we do disaster preparedness. And even if persons don't know what a hurricane looks like, after they get the training, they have an idea that, whoops, if it's come, it's going to look like that. It's the same thing I think we have to take as we go into the schools. It's good. We have school nurses, which is excellent, because that is also a connection to the schools, and to use them to educate the little ones, because then they start to say, oh, I thought you work in hospital, but you work in schools too, and that makes the difference. And we need to just build and promote what we have locally. So we have programs locally. We must promote those, because, and I want to speak about the nursing school.
Yes.
We need to promote it locally. So the government, I think they give, I think they do give some funds to help persons to get into it, but give more. Private sectors, you come in and you offer scholarships so that when persons want to get into something, but maybe because of funds they can't, it's a way out for them. But start early. Career days start in the schools, and we bring both private and public sectors so that they will know that we can do this privately as well as publicly. We have choices.
Yeah.
When you give persons choices, it makes it so much better.
Yeah. I agree.
And we're talking about resilience today, right? We're talking about resilience for if hurricanes and other disasters, right? But one thing that you've just touched on, Mr. Dwayne, is actually sustainability. Because we do, as a country, we need to make sure that we are sustainable for the healthcare sector. Because we talked about the good today, right? About all the great things that we saw with people who came together. But at the same time, there were some people that couldn't take the aftermath of Hurricane Ivan and left the country, right? So we have to make sure that, we are trying to encourage Caymanians to come into the healthcare sector because this is what they have and this is where they're going to stay, right? We need to build our healthcare workers. And as a healthcare worker myself, I can truly say, maybe I may be a little bit biased, but I think healthcare is one of the most rewarding careers you can ever have. There is just something that comes with saving a life and saving somebody or helping somebody. You don't even have to save a life. Helping somebody at their most vulnerable periods when they are helpless. They're literally helpless. That patient didn't know anything about it, but his life was physically in the hands of those nurses and doctors
Literally in the hands,
that breathed for him for 16 hours. So, so we are honored as healthcare professionals to be in our profession because I feel that we are blessed to be trusted, to be gifted by our patients, our community, to look after them at their most vulnerable times. So anybody out there who wants to come into the healthcare profession, we have lots of opportunities. It doesn't mean blood and gore, because some people don't want to be involved because they think, I don't like
but
blood.
They can do other things.
But I have colleagues that have worked in the private sector. We have the HR team who's worked in the private sector. We have our accounting team has worked in the private sector. But now that they're at HSA, they said, my goodness, my life has so much different now. There's so much more. There's a different meaning because I'm now helping people that I didn't have to help before. Because when you're helping people that are strong and, able to help themselves, it's a little different than helping somebody who can't help themselves, and you are the person to make the difference. So by all means, anybody who's interested in healthcare, speak to our HR team and look for opportunities, and we will come out to schools, we'll come out to communities to let you know what opportunities there are in healthcare.
Yes.
We'd love to share with you, because there's some of us that will be retiring at some point in time, and we need some young people to come in and take over from us.
That's true.
And I think as you share that, it's important to recognize that in that resilience, that resourcefulness, we're not just looking at business continuity, but national security.
That's right.
And it's something that we don't see in the sense, you're not an independent nation. No, but every community needs to have the ability to draw on its own when its own is all you have.
That's right.
Dr. Talon, only if you wish, sir, to speak, and if you do, as you wish, but if you do speak, I would ask to repeat and remind us of what you talked about. It's not competitive, it's complementary. It's a collaborative approach, so that we know in some jurisdictions there are divides, if I may put it, between education and public and private, between healthcare and public and private, and then there are some who got it right and say, listen, at the end of the day, you come together, you're just working on corner A versus corner B, so to speak. So if you wish, share with us, but ask you to speak to that.
Well, I mean, over many years, myself, the public sector employees and also private sector employees have experienced sort of a sense of us and them. So if somebody's working for the HSA, they basically keep everything in there, and everybody who's working in the private sector is sort of like living in their own domain. And that puzzled me when I came here on island. So that was already many years ago, but still, I mean, that's also why I sort of like feel in my role as the president of the Cayman Island Medical Dental Society that we have a chance to bring basically the private and public sector together and actually see that medical doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, I mean, they have the same goal of helping the public and not be having whatever allegiance to an employer, which is basically the only difference. And so we are trying, and she said hopefully we will have a few more meetings afterwards that they are, and I see in this venture with a hurricane preparedness, it was such a smooth and uncomplicated way how we communicated, work together. Why can't we do that also in other sectors? And I hope this might be also a beginning of potentially a fruitful future where so much potential on the public side and on the private side can be bundled together for the benefit of the good for the public. Yeah.
I can see it. I think it's leadership and vision, but it's also political, economic, but societal. And these discussions inspire and should motivate. And hopefully we understand the importance of giving, from a heart of service. So thank you all very much. Probably the reason why I feel so motivated some days to say some things that may end up put me in some places, who knows. Thank you all so much, right? I invite you to have a very, very safe and productive rest of this day. But, throughout all eternity. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us, sir.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for that. It's an honor for me to sit and facilitate. It's truly a privilege and a pleasure. So, Ms. Susan, after the break, some open line, you think? You'll join me on air? Or you stay behind the scenes? I'll see if I can encourage. I won't incentivize with the offer of chocolate because it's mine and I'll keep it in it. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
The rich flavors of Italy just arrived at Subway. Say ciao to the Italianos. Our 3 new Subway series recipes, carefully crafted with an Italian flair. Try the Hot Shot Italiano for an enticing and zesty touch. The tastier than ever Ultimate BMT, generously stuffed with a mix of ham, pepperoni, and salami. Or go all in with the creamy chicken bacon Alfredo. New Subway series Italianos. Chef-crafted greatness in every bite. Elevate your game only at Subway. Delizioso.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments 23rd September to the 28th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited whether you're seeking advanced skin care, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles. Dr. Wayne Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com. That's drporterkman@gmail.com. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That's 946-9020.
Cayman, mark your calendars for Sunday, September 29th, as the Cayman Heart Foundation and Tortuga proudly present the 2nd annual Robert Hamerty 5K Walk Run at Camana Bay. This family-friendly, pet-friendly event kicks off at 6:30 a.m. and is open to all fitness levels, celebrating World Heart and Stroke Day and honoring the memory of the late Mr. Robert Hamerty. Last year, over 200 participants joined the cause. Let's get moving to inspire better health together. All proceeds support the Cayman Heart Foundation's mission to improve cardiovascular health across our community. To register, visit racecaribbean.net. $25 for adults and $10 for children. Make a difference, one step at a time. The Robert Hamerty 5K Walk Run at Camana Bay, Sunday, September 29th, starting at 6:30 a.m. Proudly sponsored by Radio Cayman.
Marketers, creatives, and visionaries, are you ready to be inspired? Join SIMPA's 11th Annual Marketing Conference, The Connect Experience, under the theme Icons and Innovators, October 11th and 12th at Hotel Indigo. Discover the latest trends in marketing innovation, sharpen your skills in hands-on workshops, and connect with industry leaders who are changing the game. Plus, celebrate the best of Cayman's marketing and creative professionals at SIMPA's Awards Gala, honoring the icons and innovators in the field. Don't miss out. Secure your tickets online at simpa.ky/events.
Have you heard? The Ministry of Tourism and Ports has launched the Visitors Experience Development Grant Program. This program is for Caymanians looking to provide a new product or service to visitors of the Cayman Islands. Successful applicants may receive up to CI $50,000 in funding to be used for business-related expenditures. To find out more information and to apply, you can visit www.ourcayman.ky/VEDGP. That's ourcayman.ky/VEDGP.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us. And very grateful to Ms. Lizette and her team over at HSA for the opportunity and for the very, very, stated public partnership, between the Health Services Authority and their colleagues within the private sector. Now, we were chatting about Hurricane Ivan, and if you wish to have anything more to say or share about that, please feel free. But it's open line for the remainder of our program. We have the headlines at 2, commercial breaks in between, but there's still time for you to share your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 949-6990. You can WhatsApp call 925-3261 or use our Flow toll-free number 1-800-534-8255 and share your thoughts with us. Now, you can talk about a lot of things. You can talk about anything. You may not have anything in particular that you want to share. Certainly invite all who are listening and who may have had something that was burning that you want to relay. Well, go right ahead. A couple of things, though, as I've had the opportunity, and for me, and please, guide me, because I could, may possibly not have it all correct in this vein, but for me, when the month of September rolls around, and it's been that way for as long as I can remember, it's always been a sort of seminal point in the year. It's not just that we're approaching the last quarter. It's not just that, for some in the last 2 decades, the passage of Hurricane Ivan, but it's been this notion that September has been that pivotal point in many of our lives. As pupils, we are moving from one grade to the next, or one school to the next. We maybe have gone overseas for further studies. It may be that we've graduated and we're not going to go anywhere just yet. So after leaving high school, formally matriculating, as it were, that September finds us in employment. So that school life is no longer our norm. It may be that we're not quite sure what we're doing. But for all of us, who can reach back to our memories and recall the experiences of our fathers and grandfathers, and mainly the men in our lives, they were noticeably absent come September. The expectation that come December, they'll come home. Sometimes that didn't happen. So September has been that time when we reflect, and it's why I've always thought, not just because as our holiday calendar sort of is as a moment, the absence, between July and November of no holiday has, in my mind, always meant that was an opportune time to have, a holiday in September. And then with the passage of so much, including Ivan, a time to reflect and celebrate the country and its people. Not named in any particular way thus far, but we know many countries have, Unity Day, they have Labor Day, they have, that day with the country's name inserted as a day to reflect and recognize in a respectful way the country and its people. Well, why not the same for us? Maybe even more so now. Because as much as we are trying to learn from our past experiences, as we recognize that Hurricane Ivan was a strong teaching moment, many of us in our quiet moments, and some even publicly, look back and would love not to recall. It is, as Miss Lizette shared, sort of like PTSD. We feel it. We're thankful that it's no worse than what it was. But it isn't when in great celebration. It's a sense of trepidation and what if, it's worse the next time. And then some, when looking at the population base and increased numbers, and wonder what those pressures would be on the infrastructure, from the roads to the housing to the schools to the healthcare sector to the food supplies to all the other things. Would those increased numbers make it better or worse? Do we feel displaced and disconnected, or do we actually feel, hey, we've got an opportunity for greater resource and resilience? But how do we approach it? What are we doing to unite? Well, I want you to share with us. 949-8037, 949-6990. WhatsApp call if you wish, 925-3261, or toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. With that, there are three things that we may want you to weigh in on it, and we'll list them out and you decide what you wish, or if you wish to talk about that or something else. Now, the phone lines are open. It's going to be open line. And without you expressing your opinion, how are we going to know what you're thinking? You don't have to be indignant, adamant, and dogmatic. But let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, Dwayne. Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well, Mom. How about yourself?
I'm holding on. I just tuned in. I didn't hear what you were talking about, but I did hear you say it's open line.
It is indeed.
Yes. I wanted to talk about an issue in credit to another media source.
Mm-hmm.
This morning there was a discussion about people coming to the islands and misrepresenting their credentials,
Mm-hmm.
and also pertaining to immigration, where they are as dependents on
Mm-hmm.
a spouse that has a dependent. A spouse has a dependent, and that dependent is
seeking employment.
Yes,
Yeah.
and of course the spouse doesn't have sufficient income to have accommodated the dependent.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'd just bring it to this forum and see if we can have a discussion, because I know the law enforcement and authorities often listen to this program as much as other programs, and we want to get some feedback. And election time is coming up now. We want to get some feedback from our constituents in this issue, because it's very, very common, more common than we realize. I actually had an experience myself a few weeks ago with persons from another jurisdiction, and I was surprised that, you know, at the discussion this morning, and this is something we see very common on social media. I don't know if law enforcement pays attention to you know, the social media with certain pages, but it's something that's very common and very expressed online. People's frustration at coming here and not being able to get a job when they know, you know, that they don't qualify to get a job, or you know, there's job hopping and so forth. So I just wanted to open the floor to that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I didn't get to listen to much of that discussion. I commend you know, with Sandy Hill for doing that. I know many condemn many who share publicly and their motivations for doing, but I think she provides an invaluable service, and at least allowing the ventilation of how we go about it and how we approach it, to each our own, right? But you are right, and let me then ask then, with that perspective, we're seeing a lot of things happening in our country. I'll say this, and perhaps people would advise me not to, but this is why I don't care for social media, because we can hide behind much and it's not utilized effectively. But I say with justification and recognizing that the UK now in many of the schools are saying, you know, this is probably a bad thing for young people, as we're hopefully starting to appreciate. But that aside, if I true you can maybe ask others to weigh in on it. Let me ask then, what is your view on two things? One, should people who are here as a dependent or otherwise legally here, should they be able to apply for an advertised job or openly seek work, or should they be, you know, prescribed in their right to be here, or their, I don't even want to use that word, their license to be here? Listen, you can't and you won't be employed like other jurisdictions, and I presumably told Bermuda did or still does. What's your view on that first part?
Well, let me see if I understand what you're asking, because I like I said, I recently had an experience with this you know, what immigration is terming a family. I can't remember the description that I was given, but they have the laws set up to keep families together. So if a spouse is here, you know, they have it set up where the spouse or children, a spouse and children can stay on island with the, you know, the other spouse. And like I said, I had a recent experience with that, so it was an eye opener for me, because one spouse was on rollover, and that it was the male, and that spouse was attached to as a dependent to the wife, and the wife was on a domestic work permit, and she was only it was a blatant deceptive situation. I think immigration really needs to
fair enough
put a oh my God, immigration really needs to monitor.
It needs to be much more
area.
of due diligence and vetting.
In this area,
okay.
Yes, because it is very, very commonplace. It was a really great discussion this morning, and it really brought a lot out into the open. And I hope they will put a scope on this, because it is
right.
so common, and it's taking up. Sorry, go ahead.
We have the break. Only if you wish to engage. I don't want you to be on the spot. There was a second part to that question that we could ask generally, but we would invite you to share. If you want, we will invite you to stay on. Do you want to stay on, talk some more, or
yes,
you want to leave it to
I'll
somebody
stay
else?
On. Yes, no, I'll stay on.
Okay. Well, we'll ask that question when we come back, and invite others to share, because it can be, as you said, an emotive issue, but can also be very enlightening. So let's see what happens. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Have you heard? The Ministry of Tourism and Ports has launched the Visitors Experience Development Grant Program. This program is for Caymanians looking to provide a new product or service to visitors of the Cayman Islands. Successful applicants may receive up to CI $50,000 in funding to be used for business-related expenditures. To find out more information and to apply, you can visit www.ourcayman.ky/VEDGP. That's ourcayman.ky/VEDGP.
Here's a CUC storm tip. Ensure your battery packs and electronic devices are always charged prior to a storm approaching. Keeping your kids entertained during a storm is one thing less you need to worry about. With CUC, you've got the power.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
We give you honor and praise, adoration and glory.
Radio Cayman.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him. Come and let's praise the Lord. Come and let's praise the Lord. Praise him in the morning and in the evening. Oh, let's praise the Lord.
Praise time in the morning.
Praise him, praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Radio Cayman, waking you up.
Rock my soul in the blues of my faith, yeah. Rock my soul in the blues of my faith, yeah.
Praise time.
I know he cares. He'll always be there. Oh, yeah. Praise him, praise him, praise him.
Praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it. Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to the wonderful, patience of our caller as she stayed online. Hey, thanks for rejoining us. All is well still?
Yes, I'm still here, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And we wanted to just ask then the second part of that question, as you were talking about, people here as a dependent of a work permit holder. And I agree with you. If we can have a forum where the media encourages responsible and respectful discussion, we might find. So the other part of the question I want to ask, and you can weigh in if you wish, right? Should, in this case, WORC, WORC, or any other government entity charged with granting or renewing work permits, should they do a level of greater background checks, due diligence, not just on the initial applicant who's coming in or one for renewal, but someone who's here either as a dependent or otherwise? And to your mind, what do you think of the level of sort of, my words, sort of due diligence and background check that goes into the granting or the renewing of work permits?
I absolutely believe that there should be more due diligence. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Like I said, I had a personal experience, and I was very surprised at the ease of having to submit such an application. And when I heard this discussion this morning, it was another eye opener for me, because now I'm realized I've heard about these situations, but my recent experience and then the discussion this morning, I realized how commonplace it is. And obviously, there's not enough due diligence that another media source can actively go online and find all of these resources and realize that the applications have not been justified, or they're not genuine. And so I hope, in all fairness to work, I am aware, and I did have an experience of where I know that they do some due diligence, that they follow up with employers to make sure that there are legitimate applications. Now, I don't know if those are only specific categories or specific job areas. That they have, for instance, I know about barbers and beauticians and those sorts of things. They try to and domestic, some domestics, that they try to follow up to make sure that these are legitimate jobs that are being filled. But I don't think it's enough, or it's across the board. And now we're seeing it's a whole different category of occupations where this deception has happened.
Yeah.
And for sorry.
No. I'm listening to you, because I think there's an opportune time for us to get it right, or to acknowledge that maybe we're not doing it. But you reference categories, and then just quickly, I think there have been a number of public sort of admissions, acknowledgements, or awareness of individuals in the financial services sector, possibly even in the public sector, of a person at some point later on after being employed to be determined that person had false credentials, right? But was issued with a permit, or at least the ability to stay and work here. But not just in the financial services, but even in the construction sector, increasingly we're hearing from contractors who have shared that they've hired somebody on a permit on the recommendation of someone who says, yep, this person is good, knows them, maybe it's a family member or friend of the family, or B, or with some piece of paper, certification otherwise, that says they have this competency, this skill set, only to find that the person doesn't know a hammer from a screwdriver, a nail, from a nail hole. And yet, those people oftentimes remain in the country. There's no sanction to anybody, but employer A, who now has that person, is finding that person is going in and employ somebody else, but still in the country, still incompetent, still unethical, still unqualified, and still making a mess of the system.
I don't know if work has the capabilities to do the extra due diligence, the further background checks. I know when I was working immigration in the Cayman Status and Permanent Residence section many years ago, we did Interpol checks on applicants in that section. I can't suggest that they could be doing Interpol checks on everyone, but in giving an example with the discussion this morning, and giving an example with my situation where I won't say where the husband and wife were from. They both had different last names, and in one instance they waited. The wife approached me. I was seeking someone for business opportunity, and the wife approached me and asked me, if I could consider her for the position. And so at the last minute, when I thought about I considered putting in the work permit, at the last minute, they came and said, oh, my husband is a dependent on my work permit. Now, the husband is here, and he's on rollover, and the only reason why he's still here is because he's a dependent on her work permit. And he is a business owner, part business owner with a Caymanian, and so he's working with the Caymanian business owner. He's a dependent on the wife's work permit. She's a domestic helper, and she was only working 2 days a week. Now, none of this was explained to me through the whole process for weeks and weeks. So when I realized what the situation was, I'd never really heard of it, because when the laws changed, I wasn't on island. So, of course, I called work, and they explained to me when I read the law, and then they explained to me what the reasoning was for this law to be created. They wanted to try to keep families together. But now we're realizing people are taking advantage of that. There always going to be someone who's going to try to
game the system,
bypass the system, and it's absolutely eye-opening. I hope someone from work was listening, and CBC and other relevant departments, like you were saying, is listening to this, was listening this morning and maybe listening to the show, because this is another big area, it seems, very, very commonplace. And I definitely agree with you. There needs to be more due diligence. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the spouse, that the wife is on his work permit is dependent.
Right.
Obviously, he was job hopping. No credentials. I mean, how do they get these work permits passed through the system? How do they get? Anyway,
but
I just think there definitely needs to be more due diligence.
No,
I agree with you there.
I appreciate you bringing up, but with that, maybe do we say to someone, listen, your work permit has been approved, but if at any point during your stay on this work permit we discover that this is false, your credentials, whatever you put, spelled out, there's significant sanctions going to be immediate accounts. I mean, put it there in black and white that would cause most of us with any little bit of sense to not make false declarations, as is the case on many of the forms that we sign for a bank account or for some application. If that's not already done, not only should there enforcement, but should that be the case? What do you think?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, and I'm going to throw this in there too, Sterling. I was just thinking, we are still what I would call a developing nation, right? Our country, the jurisdiction of the Cayman Islands, is still, we're no longer the islands that time forgot. Everybody wants to come here now. What I have found in my readings is that our laws and our acts, many of them are so outdated. So as we're growing and developing and advancing, our laws are not catching up with that. And I really think government needs to invest in having. And I know there are designated departments to do this, but I've read acts where the spelling, whoever proofreads some of these acts of spelling, they need to, as situations arise, they need to start amending the acts and introducing and covering these areas, like the case the other day with the persons who brought in the two illegal gentlemen, human trafficking. We don't have any laws for that. So I think this is where we're failing, because we don't have, like you said, it needs to be there in black and white. And this is something that work should be getting on top of and say, you know what, getting in touch with the relevant drafters and saying, hey, listen, we need to get this covered. There's this loophole in the law. We can't allow this anymore, because we introduced this law to try to help families, but now families are taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you putting that out there, and we're certainly happy to see others will do it. As we go into the news break, I want to thank you, obviously, for listening and sharing that, but maybe ask people, should a person on a work permit, quote unquote, be allowed to change that in job hop? We understand that any and everything that can be said and done to disparage a Caymanian employee, from the young one who has no educational qualifications or experience, is said you're unqualified, underqualified, overqualified. But should that work permit holder be able to change jobs, not even in the same sector? I mean, should that be allowed? Maybe it is. Let's ask those questions, see if we get any answers. But thank you, okay?
Okay, do.
All right, let's pause and do the news. Take the callers in the queue when we come back.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. If you are a U.S. citizen living in the Cayman Islands, you're invited to a nonpartisan voter registration event tonight. Vote from Abroad is being held at Salty's from 5 to 7:30 p.m. for a happy hour event, helping you register in your state. Bring a laptop or phone, as well as your former stateside address. In regional headlines, the rebranded regional carrier Liat 2020, that is the Leeward Islands Air Transport, will be launching flights to 11 new destinations. The carrier's First CEO says along with the current service to Antigua, they're adding flights to St. Lucia, Barbados, Grenada, Dominica, St. Kitts, and Nevis. The expansion will include Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. The Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, UNAIDS, is raising alarm over the increase in HIV in young people in the Caribbean. UNAIDS multi-country director Dr. Richard Amenya says that there has been some progress, but the decline in new infections among adolescents remains sluggish. Dr. Amenya notes that globally, 15 to 24-year-olds make up 28% of new HIV infections, and we're seeing the same in the Caribbean at about 27%. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
You can now renew your driver's license or motor vehicle license online, and you don't need an ESID number. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit www.dvdl.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It is open line as we go to the next caller. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you today?
Very thankful. Yeah. And yourself?
I think I'm good, thank you. I always enjoy listening to the lady who just called.
Indeed.
I think you should have her featured on your show. Give her a full show. You see. Because I think she's got a lot to say. She clearly knows some of these issues, and a lot of her ideas, I think, need to be taken up by government. I mean, but on top of that, I sense the frustration in her voice, which is also a frustration I share to some degree, that these things some of them are quite obvious, but nobody's doing anything about them. Now, I really called you to respond to a call, somebody who called yesterday about that Hill case. But since you are already on this topic, let me just comment on this. You see, all these issues, it's good that they should be pointed out in relation to work permits. No system is perfect. A lot of good things have been done to try and improve the due diligence and to ensure that Caymanians who are looking for jobs can be connected to employers who are looking to employ people.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, as good as all these things are to point out and for government to face, ultimately the fundamental problem is that the governments have not been willing to substantially change the whole work permit system so that it is more effective. Because I don't see how a country like Cayman can have 37,000 work permits and still have Caymanians unemployed. It's ridiculous.
Well,
because sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Very sobering, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is very sobering because, and what are these work permits that are being given? They are not being given to these rare, or they are not always given to people with rare professions where Caymanians can't do them.
Mm.
I mean, these are people who are working at tills in the supermarkets, doing some generalized jobs and so on and so forth, cleaners and that kind of thing. I mean, I do not believe that there should be a single Caymanian who is not employed unless they don't want to work, or maybe they're an alcoholic, they're on drugs and so on and so forth, or for some reason like that. Otherwise, the fact that there are Caymanians unemployed, while there are 37,000 work permits for some of the most menial jobs, it means that the system is not working very well. And the only way you can fix that fundamental problem
mm-hmm.
is not just to sort of what the lady there was discussing, in a sense, you're just ironing out some creases. Very small creases you are ironing out, but you are not changing the fabric. In terms of the work permit system, the whole fabric has to be changed. You see, look at, for example, in the public sector. It used to be said that people in the public sector, in fact, I think she is the one who first mentioned this on the show, and I remember that I had never quite thought of it. I think what she said was, well, how come people in government don't have to go to anybody to get approval? If you are a managing director of a company, you go to the work permit board and you ask for a work permit, and you have to justify why you want to employ this person. And yet a chief officer in government doesn't have to go to anybody to justify whether they need that person, because the public service management law gives them the power to do whatever it is they want to do. And then as if that is not enough, in government, rollover doesn't apply.
Mm-hmm.
This was controversial from about after the mass grants were given, and then people were now trying to settle in to say, okay, how are we going to adjust to this? Mr. McCarthy, as chief secretary, issued a circular to say that, look, we are going to introduce rollover in government. It was never introduced, it was withdrawn, and now 20 years later, they're saying, oh, you see, we should introduce a rollover in government as well. But you see, this is just a fundamental problem that the governments don't want to face these issues until things are very late, and then unless people can not just elect new leaders. I keep harping on this point that elections are not changing anything. There is need for people action. This morning on another show, I expressed the view that the way to do it is that you can elect a new government, but you can be sure out of those 19 you elect, there might be only about 4 or 5 people, maybe even less, who really want to address some of these issues. What you need to do is to be able to back those people up with something like a social petition. For example, you go out there, you do a petition, an online petition, and get people to sign and say, we want immigration reform. We want, according to the way I read Caymanians at the moment, they want status to be limited to people who are Caymanian by descent and those who want to become Caymanian by marriage. That's the way I read Caymanians. And they can go out there and say, this is our petition, these are the 2 things we want. We can work out the details later on, and then have that petition supported by those few, that small minority who will get elected, so that they can, that is what is needed to overcome that majority who will be elected, who will not care about these issues. I can assure you the new government will not be any different about immigration than the last one. Since the time when they tried to kill the government of that day, which granted these mass grants, they tried to kill it and say, oh, this is a problem and so on. But what did the subsequent governments do? They didn't do anything about it. The people have to take this thing in their own hands and to try to work through petitions to support the small number of elected officials. Like, for example, Kenneth Bryan is very clear about this. But he can't do anything, as he has said on your show and the OC show many times, because he's always outnumbered. But he needs to get the people now to meet him halfway. So that's what I think about all these issues about work permits. About the laws.
If I can ask you maybe 2 things, just one, in your reference, to the public sector not being sort of subject to rollover. I mean, there is some review on the way, but do you think laws is a 2-part? First question has 2 parts. Laws like the labor law and the need to apply for work permits should apply to every employee, whether working in the public sector or the private sector?
Well, that's a huge issue, Dwayne. It's a huge issue. There is really a need for a lot of the laws that apply to the private sector to apply also to the public sector. Yes, because, you see, this is an old British thing, and in a sense it's more than even British. Any government anywhere in the world will always want to create exceptions for itself so that they don't have to do certain things. In fact, there are certain governments, for example, I forget how it is in Cayman. There are certain governments where the government doesn't need planning permission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can occupy a space with the CEO and the like, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Just like in government, like the point which I mentioned earlier on, in government, a chief officer doesn't need a work permit.
Right.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And secondly, the second part to that first question is, should a person's time in Cayman, whether working for government or the private sector, but given the peculiarities of an employee within the public sector, should that time, just because you're here on a permit, and by my understanding, you're being permitted to do something, that's a license, right? Should that time somehow equate to tenure? You now have this acquired time, so therefore that means that that counts towards your right to be able to stay. I know the court ruled that you have the right to apply. Not so much legalities, but just your individual perspective. Should that time equate to some qualifying right that gives you tenure?
Well, very good questions, because in some countries, actually, that doesn't apply to residents.
Right.
In some countries, they have a system. I can't get into detail with it on radio, but basically, like if you come in on a work permit, there are certain things that you have to meet to be what is called settled. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And then once you become settled, then that period of time after you become settled is the one which counts towards that.
Right.
So the work permit system doesn't count. But in Cayman, I found it very, very interesting that once you come in on work permit, that period counts, and that's one of the things that government need to look at.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, well, and then
I'm listening.
Okay, no, thank you. And maybe last one, not to belabor it, then we do the break. You talk about sort of the politicians and not just changing the face, but the actual the approach, the political will. Again, with respect to us, the voters in this democracy, isn't it for us now to do and to play a greater role in not just selecting and electing, but also ensuring that the agenda, the policies that are being pursued, are such that is reflective of us? I mean, what role do we, the voter, play in this whole game?
Well, one thing is that the policies of many governments have been actually the contrary. They have not wanted people to be knowledgeable about government. They wanted to keep them ignorant. I see now that one political party, the only political party really, the PPM, they've now announced to say, well, they want to ensure that people are involved more and more in what happens, and they should understand this.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, the PPM government are the ones who prevented me from trying to contribute to the society by teaching people, both in the public and private sector, how legislation is done, because that's very central to the participation of people in society. I designed a number of courses. I've mentioned this a few times. A course on the legislative process, a course on judicial review, and how government institutions should make decisions according to the rules of natural justice. That was going to be a contribution to what they are trying to do now. But they went to court practically to prevent me from doing that. So it's very interesting that the same party now is saying, oh, no, but now we want to teach the people how, we want to get the government people more involved in this thing. So I think we should be more involved. I think, to me, people should continue looking now more to petitions rather than just saying things, because that is not changing anything. Not even elections are changing anything.
Well, something comes to mind. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to try to respect the schedule break. And when we return, take all of the callers. Please stay tuned.
You deserve a unique vacation this year, one with easy non-stop flights from Cayman. Cayman Airways offers more non-stop flights to and from the Cayman Islands than any other airline. Now you can add Panama and Los Angeles to your travel bucket list. Skip the hassle of connecting flights. Panama is just a 2-hour non-stop flight from Cayman. And Los Angeles? Get there in less than 5 hours non-stop aboard Cayman Airways. Call 949-2311 or visit CaymanAirways.com to book your Los Angeles or Panama getaway today.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Refer a friend and get $50 to spend when your friend or family member opens a personal account with Cayman National. From July 9th to September 30th, 2024, C&B customers can earn $50 for each referral who opens an individual or joint personal account. Earn up to $500 with a maximum of 10 referrals. Visit CaymanNational.com for more details on this promotion and follow us on social media for updates. Terms and conditions apply.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back and thanks for joining us. It's open line, and to our callers who are so gracious with their time, let's go to the phones. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, yeah, you got that right, gracious. Yeah, 17 minutes to be exact.
Yeah, I should have turned over my egg timer. I didn't. All right, but thank you.
I got buy you 2 of those. And you go to the second one, don't do the first one first.
Oh.
The second one. Mr. Sterling, you okay?
I am. And you?
Good. Thankful. You there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Sterling, I was listening to the caller before, this one, the young lady. Sterling, we have government that you change half of them every 4 years. Is there any laws that they are making and they are coming out and being used in this island? Because I need somebody to refresh me, 1 or 2 of them that they have made the share and it's working for the people and for the island. But you don't have to answer that now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have an answer, but you can answer if you want when I kind of finish right. Sterling, we're making lane after lane now, so we got lanes, 3 going and 3 coming here and there, right? And some places only got 1 lane. So having more lanes causes more speed. So I think they need to look into some sort of highway. They call them highways down here in Cayman. Some highway patrol that is parked up on our roads to try to keep this speed from going the way it's going. Mm-hmm. Somebody needs to park up there. They need to revamp that police department and get some people who are serious about protecting the people of this island and keeping our roads protected by being out there. And like I say, we need some highway patrol officers on our highways that we still have right now. Because Sterling, we got lines out there. It's a white line, and let's say it's like 10 feet long, 20 feet long. And there's no broken in it, right? That means you cannot overtake. You only overtake in the ones that is already divided into whatever amount of pieces.
Yeah, broken lines, right? Uh-huh.
Yeah, broken lines, yeah. And people is overtaking where these lines are because they don't even know what the lines mean. The majority of people are going to get this license. Mm-hmm. And, Sterling, I would just like to know, really and truly, what policies have been made in the last 2.5 years for us here that we are crying so regular about our roads and the safetyness and the stupidness that's going on in our island here and there in the parking lots. You can't even get out of your car door that someone is trying to reverse and knock you down by your car door, or you're trying to pull out and somebody's coming and they got to squeeze across you. All of that is happening. Darling, go to the grocery store. The aisles is full like the shopping cart, and nobody wants to make a way for you. They just taking their seat time and I'm here shopping too. Yes, you all are, but we have to share the lane.
Yeah, lack of consideration and respect, huh?
Lack of consideration, exactly. You know, and Sterling, there on Moringa Road, they're talking about putting some knocking on those Moringa all those apartments there, and put them some humongous building there, right? And they're fighting against it, not to build it to a degree. But Sterling, when you look at how many of those buses that drive to Moringa Road every day, 5 days a week, if that road was to become under construction to build that building there, where are those buses from West Bay going to drive through? If they go up to South Church Street, they got to go all the way down to Walker's Road and come all the way back up to John Gray. I just hope that they know what they do, because then Rowan Avenue, that's going to be a chaos when that building is finished.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I mean, more and more, sometimes we don't pay attention to the things we say, oh, we didn't know about it. But you and many have not just been aware, but you have shared. Anything else before we take the next call?
Sterling?
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching the Canadian border online.
Mm-hmm.
Sterling, they got some serious fines, and they do some serious thorough checks when people is coming through their airport or by whatever they may come in through. They search your very cell phone. And you better don't put nothing false on that report, that declaration you have to make for them, because then they're going to find you out. I just wish that we had some sort of serious restrictions here in Cayman. I really truly wish we had some. But I wish somebody could call and say what are some of the policies that has been made in 3.5 years and what they are, and are they working? That's what I'll leave you with. Go ahead.
All right. Well, no. Thank you. Maybe I'll weigh in at the end, but thank you for that, okay? And let's take this other caller. Hey, welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
And to you, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you. And yourself?
Oh, listen, every day is a good day, and I try to make it so that, my play is positive, productive, and hopefully beneficial.
That's good to hear, to know that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to reflect on the lady also, like Jan said. She was talking about work, WRC, and the work, the permits and how it was handled. And I think she said something about a lady applied for a work permit, and the husband permit had expired or something, and he was in business with like another Caymanian, and they had to keep the family together. All sorts of excuses, and these laws are made by our own people. They amend these laws to accommodate the people to come to work, and I'm not against that. But tell us the truth, and let the people stop, calling in and complaining about foreign workers. How much would they say it was 37,000 now? We're up to 37,000 workers.
But this is interesting. I mean, we've heard that number, and it seemed at one point it was more than that. Here's a good exercise if we could figure out what are the work permits? How many of the work permits have become PR? How many of the PR have become status holders, right? As the population swells. And we like to bat numbers around that are convenient. We say numbers don't lie, just the words from the mouth that is moving. So we really need to ask some serious hard questions.
But let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
The government over the years have built they have built what I would call it a big white elephant. And it needs to be fed. Or I'd go back to the ships, because I was a sailor on those ships.
Mm-hmm.
They started out with 40,000 ton tankers. Then they went to 85,000 tons, and then 125,000 tons. And the bigger Mr. Southwell built those ships, the more people had to operate them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what has happened to the Cayman Islands. We have grown, we have built, we have invited businesses, companies from Timbuktu to come here, to start the business here, to help us grow the population. But the government needs to tell the people the truth and let them stop fooling themselves that we shouldn't have these people here. They caused it by inviting these people here. Just when it was 2 weeks ago or last week, they bragged about some 30,000 registered companies. Okay?
Mhm.
That's the government. They
Mhm.
set all of that up. And like I say, I'm not complaining, but I'm saying tell the people the truth. And let's get back to the lady. She said something about Interpol. And they're bringing in people here and they're not checking the background and they're not doing due diligence. You can't do that. That's the first thing work should be doing is the due diligence
Mhm.
on these people they're coming in because they don't know who they are. The government won't even allow fingerprinting here, so we can actually let in who they want to let in.
Mhm.
All they look for is numbers. They're looking at numbers. They want 100,000 people here. They don't care what level of criminality they are, or they're coming from, the background. They don't. Otherwise, we'd have a fingerprint, and Interpol would have been in action by now. We'd have a fingerprinting system.
Something to consider, and there are many probably databases within the, as you referenced. So maybe there's a time to rethink. Huh? I appreciate what you shared. Anything else you want to relay?
No, I would hold off for now. That's
All right.
my.
Thank you for
Have a
that,
good
sir.
afternoon, Graham.
Thank you for that. Well, is there another call? And if so, is there time for a quick call? All right. Quick final call. Let's go to the phones. Thank you, Miss Susan. Hey, welcome.
Hi, Dwayne. I'm calling back again.
Well, you get a last word.
I have another quick comment to make.
Mhm.
Where was I? I believe that most of our government departments should have one or two designated legal persons assigned to their departments, especially CBC, work, immigration, lands and survey. Those particular departments should have. Coincidentally, I know Mr. Manderson will be on Mr. Connor's show in the morning. I hope you can convince him to perhaps come back to your show for lunch if you don't have any guests assigned already. And of course, we know he was, the chief immigration officer at one point, but he's also a qualified lawyer as far as I can remember. I know Mr. Scott from work. Director Scott is, I believe he also went to law school, and one of his I think assistant directors, if that's his title, Mr. Manderson there too, is also in law school. But I don't know if these departments have designated people that are responsible for overseeing the laws and overseeing any recommendations for drafting or modernizing. I know we have the solicitor, I think it's the Solicitor General's office where departments can refer to for legal advice as far as I'm aware. I don't think that that's enough. I think as our departments have grown and our populations have grown and the work permit system has grown, we need designated persons in these departments who will only be primarily responsible for reviewing the laws and recommendation for modernizing the law. The other thing I wanted to say quickly, I think we're in an impasse. I love that word. We're in an impasse here in Cayman with this work permit system in terms of we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. If you look around, the immigration services have provided many entrepreneurial opportunities for Caymanians particularly. And it's a lucrative business, and it gives work in immigration and CBC a lot of revenue. But at the same time, we're also crying about bringing the immigration system up to date and fight. I don't want to use the word fighting, but we're trying to encourage that the same system that is providing a lucrative sense of employment for our Caymanian people, we're still in a position where, okay, if we comply with what our people are crying for in terms of revamping immigration, that's going to cut out certain sources of revenue for us. It's going to cut out certain certain entrepreneurial opportunities for our people. And this is something, if I'm making sense, because I know it kind of sounds I'm going all over the place, but it kind of sounds like we're at a crossroads where we really need to sit down. We're not talking about elections right now, but we really need to sit down. We need to have a minister. I'm sorry. We need to have a minister. It's too late for that now, but we really need to have a minister who cares about immigration, who is serious about immigration and employment, that is going to sit down and be a no-nonsense and get this thing. If it's not right, it's close to right, because we are at such a pivotal point in our development now that we need to start paying attention to this. Too many people are coming here and filtering through our little system and taking advantage of it, and us as Caymanians are I like to call it ran up into the eastern districts, up into the bush, if you know what I mean by saying that.
Well, we're passive and accommodating, and in our hospitality and humility, maybe sometimes we are relegated to the margins by our own inaction. Thanks very much, Mom.
Yes, thanks very much, Dwayne.
All right, have a good afternoon. I know many of the callers have said, we're not talking about politics, but we are. We are obviously cognizant and seemingly very conscious of a looming elections now. Will it be, October, which is next month? Nah, just kidding. Or will it be April? That uncertainty to some may seem like something that only the last election brought to the fore, that maybe we need to have in our calendar fixed elections, every time, at this time, not 5 years, but 4, not 3, but 4. Again, many callers have probably justifiably admonished the elected, the politician. But again, in a democracy, where are we, the voters? No matter where we're employed, entrepreneur, and self-employed, or, a public servant, we all vote. We all should never ever take for granted, that democracy that has demonstrated thus far and produce a free and fair election. But if we don't advocate and we don't somehow acknowledge that in our absence of speaking publicly and loudly and to champion the things that will remind us to be civil, we may lose it. The immigration laws and laws in general, should they apply to one and all alike? Well, governments, as we read the British media, are probably being, to some, castigated for failing to remind themselves that they are elected, and as elected government they have the power to do as they wish. But should it be that way? Other countries that act in that way, we label and malign them. We say, they're communist and dictatorship. Well, isn't it the same if a government acts against the wishes of the people, or only because it has the majority to amend or implement new legislation? Comes back to what roles are we going to play? And to the caller, who has been asking, well, the question is simple. We will have a way to evaluate those who are elected every, general elections, and that's coming up shortly. But should we wait until, the elections for us to give our nod of approval or disapproval? Are we actively engaged and informed? Are we ensuring that as the country goes forward to amend legislation, the government puts out something for public consultation, are we prepared, to take it up and critique it? Do we have in our minds sufficient time to shower and to shave? Do we find time to prepare and sit with our families and break bread? Well, we are rushed often, and we are doing sometimes nothing of any significance as we're impacted by all the negative events unfolding around us. We come from good stock, and our parents and forefathers have been stalwart, and they were good stewards, but we are sorely lacking in that sense of courage and a sense of self. A few of us will move forward, with others join hand in hand. They say that the simple thing of a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, let's all stand strong and tall and unified, and we see what that strength and unity brings to our continued stability. More to be said as things unfold, and as the caller shared with us. It appears that the Deputy Governor will join Ms. Dort. Our invitation always is come a Monday or Wednesday or Friday that you do so, because this instruction and this education is always illuminating. So join him tomorrow morning and then come back for Talk Today. Until then, have a blessed and safe afternoon.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital, peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the